Hello and welcome back to the Layback Podcast. Joining us today is Andrew Bennett and his father, Thomas Bennett. We know him affectionately as Tommy, so I'll probably be throwing that out there a good bit. But we got connected with Andrew and Tommy a little over a year ago now. Andrew is a top pitcher in his class in the United States, and rightfully so. His dad was trying to look after him and sought out FlexPro Grip, sought out some arm care, tried to learn more about it. And like any kid, Andrew had a ton going on. It's tough to fit things together. And because he threw so hard, that also put him at a high risk of elbow injury. Unfortunately, he ended up having to get Tommy John, but we've now been in the recovery process for about a year, and Andrew is back and better than ever. I can say that, fingers crossed, of course, but he still has this competition season coming up this spring, but he's back thrown in the 90s. Everything's looking good, feeling good. At least that's what he's telling me every time I text him. And I'm just grateful to have these guys on to tell their story as a father and son, as a high school kid who experienced this injury at a young age. And now he's battling through the recruiting process and just trying to figure out what the career is going to look like from here. So thanks a ton, guys. I'm going to kick it over to you. Pick up the pieces for me. Anything you guys want to add? Andrew, if you can take it away first, go ahead.
Thanks for having me on. I'm Andrew Bennett. I'm 16 years old. I'm a right-handed pitcher from Mobile, Alabama, and I go to a Mobile Christian school. So I started playing baseball when I was 6 at a local park, just T-ball. And then I made the all-star team, and we were actually T-ball champions at the local park. And then I wanted to get to kid pitch as quick as I could, so I only played 1 year of machine pitch, and I made all-stars there too. And then when I went to kid pitch, I played up with my brother, so that's about 2 years up. And that's when I started pitching, and you could just tell like I was naturally good at it. So that's where I picked up pitching, made all-stars there. And then when I was like 11, started playing more local tournaments like travel ball, just GSSA, stuff like that. And then 12U, I went to Pensacola. I played with a team from Pensacola called West Florida Academy, and we got more on like the national scene. So we started playing more national tournaments, stuff like that, big PG tournaments, and that's where I kind of got recognized nationally. And our bullpen wasn't that deep, so I pitched against all the ranked teams, the high ranked teams. I was the guy, had to go in there and shove. That kind of got me recognized, and then I made 12U Select Fest. So that was kind of first for me. It was different. And then my 13U season, I got recruited from USA Prime after the 12U Select Fest, and I played my 13U season with them. I got up to 88. I pitched the whole season, and then I made 13U Select Fest. So that was a blast there too. And then my 14U season, I played with USA Prime also, but I was struggling with some tricep tendonitis. So I kind of only hit for most of the season. I pitched 4 innings at the end of the season, just trying to get back, kind of rush my throwing program, trying to get back. So I didn't pitch too much. And then I went to the national showcase, got up to 91. I threw about 2 innings, I think 5 Ks. It was good. And then I made 14U Select Fest, and then didn't have the best outing. I was missing up in the zone. My arm was late, so wasn't the best thing that could have happened, but it happens. So try to deal with that. And after Select Fest, we had fall and winter. I kind of take the fall off. I don't really play fall ball. I just get in the gym, work on form, just get stronger. A lot of med ball throws, stuff like that. Just trying to get ready for school ball. And then a lot of at bats. I think a week before school ball, I was supposed to start. I was doing a lot of bats. I was shoving. I threw a curveball, and I just felt a pop in my elbow. And then went and got checked out by the trainer and went to the Andrews Institute and figured out it was torn UCL. So,
Dang. Well, hey, thanks for running us through the whole story. It might not be the call out piece you expected to have a question on right away, but me, who never was around this stuff, I need you to explain what Select Fest is. Is it literally just like all American, quote unquote, or is it just like top pool of kids from your age group?
so it's like what, top 30, probably around top 30 kids, somewhere in there. Top 30 kids in the nation from East and West. and we all get together. We fundraise for an organization. Like one year's to help a hospital and with cancer. We went, hung out with the kids, had a blast. So that's a really cool part about it.
Very cool.
And we play a game on television, East versus West, and just get to have fun. It's a blast. So
Nice. Where was the game, or does it move around, or is it always in
yeah,
one place?
Depends on the year.
yeah. So 12U was East Cobb, 13U we played at the University of Tennessee, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
And 14U was at the JetBlue Park, the minor league fields.
down in Florida.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Okay, so Andrew, thanks for the bio. We're gonna kick it over to your dad. Let him share a bit what he's seen in that early process. I guess, what was it like being a dad through this growth of the baseball career, and then I guess ultimately now dealing with probably the hardest thing Andrew's dealt with in his baseball career so far.
It's been a lot of fun up to that point, obviously. Yeah, he was even going back to his 8U season, he was still, because of his birthdays in April, he was still 7 playing up at the 9s and 10s. And a buddy of mine was coaching the team and I was working shift work. So I was working night shift. I didn't even get to see it. And he's like, yeah, I put Andrew into pitch. And I'm like, you put my 7-year-old in the pitch against the 9? And he was like, he shoved. He absolutely dealt. And I was like, okay, all right, well, maybe we have something here. And then it just kind of grew from there. And the West Florida thing was great for him because it really got him out there. And you're playing all the East Cobbs and the East Cobb Astros and the Canes National, and you're playing all those those nationally ranked teams and all that stuff. So he was thrown to the fire pretty quick. We went from local Gulf Coast baseball, all local teams that very well, and you play week in, week out, to national kids from all over the country. So the first Select Fest, we didn't really know what it was. The guy who coached, his pitching coach and trainer, was like, I can tell by your response you don't really understand how big of a deal this is. And we're like, so when we got up there, Ryan Kolesko was the coach,
Yeah.
Flash Gordon. It was unbelievable. And they're all great guys. And PG really does a great job of putting those events on and treating them like pro athletes. So it's really been a blessing to be a part of each one of those years. That's been really great. But leading up to it, we take the fall off. That's our time to work out, and that's our time to get after it. He's been working on change up the fall before he got hurt. It was just 12-6 curveball and fastball. That's what all he utilized up to that point. We're like, all right, we need to add a changeup and then a slider. So he was working that changeup, and I mean, he was strong. He was up to 94, and I was super excited about his freshman year. Going to start varsity, and his brother was a senior, so it's going to be like great. I get to have both my sons playing at the same time on the same field. And unfortunately, things didn't go our way with that. But Andrew's Institute's right down the road, and those guys are great. So if we got in with them, we were in good hands, and all of that stuff. And once he got in there and actually opened up his arm and looked at it, he was like, yeah, that was the right decision. We really need to go ahead and do this reconstruction. And there was no really doubt on if Andrew was going to come back or not, because I mean, he'd broken his arm in the past and came back, stronger than growth plate issues because he grew so fast. And the tricep tendonitis, that was probably the hardest thing to come back from. That was, I don't want to say harder to come back from than this, but it was difficult because it took us a while to get that one even diagnosed right.
Mm-hmm.
Right there by the elbow, and everyone just automatically assumes it's, something's going on with your elbow. We did PRP, we did imaging, and everything was clean. Everything was good. So it's been interesting. And leading up to that injury, we got introduced to FlexPro Grip by a kid that's from down here, Josh Gunther. He goes to Wake Forest, and Wake Forest is real big on that device. And he got like 200 or 300 RPMs on his curveball. So he had like a mid curveball and then all of a sudden an absolute banger just from training with FlexPro. So we didn't get the device for safety purposes, which, as part of my weekly conversations with Daryl, your dad, that was a mistake. There were warning signs leading up to it, but you don't know what you don't know till you go through it. And then he was experienced forearm soreness before, 2 weeks before. We were like, okay, we'll shut him down, and then for just a couple days, extra couple days of rest, and then get back to throwing. In the hindsight, what we should have done was evaluated his strength in his forearm muscles and strengthened him up to the point that could handle the load from which he was throwing. and then got back after it. But we didn't do that, and then an injury happens because I mean, as you know, and as Daryl knows, those forearm muscles take load off the UCL.
Yep.
3 of them specifically. Well, we didn't know that. Of course, since he got hurt, I reached out to Daryl. We put together a good plan. We reached out to you. Great group of guys. I mean, I'm talking to you like you're not in the room, like we're not face to face, but
I appreciate the love.
you guys put a plan together for his rehab, and as soon as he was able to, we were on it. And the plan was start off with this rehab session, and we're going to work up. You can't touch a baseball until you get to this point. And his physical therapist was on board with that as far as the strength part goes. He was like, okay, well, we have to get you strong enough to strength shield everything. Otherwise, we're going to be down this road again. So we just refocused on strength and went on from there.
Heck yeah. Andrew, you got anything you need to add to that, or you feel all right? Your dad answered okay?
That's pretty much it.
Sweet. All right. Well, yeah, he even started to tease a bit of my next question, which was, what's your injury history look like, and kind of what is the elbow injury story? So we heard about broken arm. I got to know when that happened and how it happened. And then go ahead. What was it?
It was which time? I've broken it like 4 times now.
No way. Doing what?
Yeah. Well, the first time my cousin said that she was going to catch me off the swing. Never trusting her again. Did not catch me.
He was full.
Yeah, so that didn't go well. And then another time I was sliding in to home plate, and I posted up in the dirt, and it broke then. And then one time I was on the blacktop playing basketball, and I went to go pack somebody.
Yep.
And I kind of fell over on top of them, and I tried to catch myself on the concrete, and just it didn't end well. So, yeah.
We got to keep you on the ground is what we're hearing. Every
Yeah.
one of these things involved you jumping. I guess you're a ground sport guy from now on.
Yeah.
The mound is a good place for you then.
Yeah.
But so this elbow tendonitis, I think it's interesting, Tommy, that you brought up how difficult that was to deal with. Andrew, do you think it was so difficult mostly because it was always one of those things that was only kind of bad? It was almost like it was just kind of like there and lingering. So you always wanted to push as opposed to like, no, I need to get in the weight room. I need to see a physical therapist. Like, how'd you manage all that? Like, what did the whole thing look like for you?
Yeah, so at first I think we tried taking a couple weeks off, just no throwing, to see if it would heal that way. That didn't work. I came back throwing, and it honestly might have hurt worse just from that. So we saw that wasn't going to work, just taking off completely. And I think we went to Andrews Institute, and they checked it out. They told us maybe a PRP would help heal it. So we got that injection, and then I think I took a couple weeks off just for the injection to kind of settle. And then I started throwing. That didn't help. It was still hurting really bad. So I went to my physical therapist that had helped me in the past with shoulder growth plate issues, and he got me really strong. He helped me get back quick. So I went back to him, and we started training a lot of triceps. We did a lot of isometric stuff on my triceps, stuff like that. And it started to get a little better, but it was still hurting. So I kind of just like, you know what, I'm just gonna start throwing, and I'm just gonna deal with the pain. Because my trainer, Kevin Neighbors, he was just like, it might be something that you just have to throw through. So I was doing PT, and I was just throwing through it, and eventually it kind of just faded away. I don't know if I just got used to the pain or it just kind of went away. But yeah, that's kind of how we got rid of it. But it was a long journey to get rid of it. It was like trying everything. So finally figured it out at the end. So
that was way worse than going through this.
Yeah.
The UCL was like, okay, imaging. Yep, there it is. All right, now we have to do this. It was XYZ. The tricep was all over the place. Well, maybe it's your growth. No, your growth plate looks good. Well, maybe it's because it referred down. He felt it in his elbow. That one, we ended up going to 2 different physical therapists. We went to a guy that I can only describe as a wizard. Everyone in the local down here in Mobile talks about him. Like he's the man, Bob Fleming, if you ever run into him. But he's done it all, seen it all. And he had needles in everywhere you could put a needle. And then it started to get better. And he was like, when it come time to strengthen, then we went to Logan.
Yeah.
And Logan was like, he's a CrossFitter, he's a younger guy, he's jacked. I was like, okay, all right, he's going to push.
Yeah.
And that got him through the season.
I'm glad you brought up isometrics, Andrew, because what's so crazy about, I guess, tendinous injuries that people don't realize is rest isn't going to fix the problem. Rest can make the pain go away because you're not working it, you're not utilizing the muscle tendon unit, you're not moving that joint. But once you start again, all of it's going to come right back. You didn't do anything to fix the problem, you just masked the symptom. So what you said with isometrics, obviously that's what you're doing with FlexPro Grip as well, but you actually have to load the tendon to get it to respond, to get it to heal. So you're beyond your years, especially as a 14-year-old now. Now you're a little bit older, but
Yeah.
crazy the stuff that you were able to experience then. You're if baseball doesn't work out, you might have a PT future.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's all about time under tension, right? Every doctor wants to prescribe time off. Like that's the go-to. You go to a doctor like time off. You're like, okay, well, then what happens when we start throwing again? We never addressed the problem. The problem was we needed to build it up enough to where the inflammation went away. We needed to increase the time under tension and increase the load, increase the workload of the muscle. It's the same thing with FlexPro Grip. You know, you're strengthening those muscle tendon units to where they can handle the load. You
Yeah.
have to build that up slowly.
Just playing around with the different percentages of your max, of course. And we understand that different percentages lead to different adaptations, really. So I know that's what you've seen the whole gamut of it, Andrew, from the lightest stuff at long holds, just trying to increase the collagen healing process versus then now you're in rate of force development type work, trying to get everything to contract as quickly as possible, fire as much as it can, focused on how quick, not how much. It's been fun that you literally have gotten to do every single protocol that we offer because of the full rehab schedule. But I do want to stick to, or I guess go back to the big elbow injury, the UCL. So you said you felt it on a curveball, you were throwing lives. I did hear you say, or I guess it was Tommy that said it, maybe like 2 weeks before, you had a little bit of extra soreness or tenderness in the forearm. So Andrew, like, were there warning signs you felt like, or was it just kind of like normal pitching? Like, oh, that's weird, just like a little stiff, like I'll be good.
So at the time, I didn't think much of it because probably 2 weeks before, I went to an Auburn camp, threw about 10 pitches there. My arm felt fine while I was pitching, but after, right on my forearm was very sore, got really tight. And I was just thinking, okay, maybe it's normal. You know, it's cold outside. Maybe I'm just a little extra sore today. So I took maybe 2 extra days off, just kind of light tossed. I didn't think much of it, but thinking back now, I probably should have saw that as a sign to maybe check this out because that's not really ever happened to me. I'm not really used to having forearm soreness, so that was kind of different. But at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, okay, I'm sore. So I just kept going, took a couple days off, and then I threw a pin maybe a week after Auburn, and I was fine. Same thing, had a lot of soreness and really tight this time. Like it was tight, but not really any pain. It was just sore. And then a week after that, I threw lives a week before I was supposed to pitch in game, getting ready for the school ball season to pitch varsity. Yeah, it was tight when I was throwing, like while I was actually throwing. So that was different. But I just kept throwing, and then I threw a curveball, and I felt it pop kind of, and I was like, I can't throw anymore. Like this is bad. So I told my coach, and he was like, okay. So the batter stepped out. I threw one more fastball, and my velo didn't drop. It was still, I think it was at 89 when I threw that last pitch after the curveball. But I told him, I was like, I'm done. I can't do this. Like this hurts bad. So I went over to the trainer on campus, and he kind of put me through some tests, some mobility stuff. I told him how I could feel it in my pinky and ring finger. Not really like numbness, but like it was like tight. And I could kind of feel the pain down to there. So he was telling me about like it could be nerve stuff, like the ulnar nerve and stuff like that, maybe rolling. He told me about that, and then we went to Andrews Institute, which is about an hour and a half away, and got some imaging done. And we got the pictures back, and they said it was a tear, and that it'd be best to do the full reconstruction instead of just the brace for the future. if I wanted to continue to pitch in college and maybe further than that. So we decided to go with the full reconstruction. I got it on my hamstring. And then March 12th, I think we scheduled for surgery. So I had surgery on March 12th. And the doctor said it went good. And here I am
Yeah.
now.
Well, I would guess it went pretty well. We'd probably know by now if it wasn't going too well based on
Yeah.
how you're feeling, where you've been back to. But so you said you got it out the hamstring. You got the graft out the hamstring. Do you
Yep.
not have the palmaris longus?
Nope.
No, I was not happy about that because I
Yeah.
want to be able to walk, because I want to hit legs. My buddy was having arm problems at the same time as me. So we're like, all right, we're going to smash legs while we're hurt, with a little safety bar. We're going to get our legs massive. And then I was kind of set back on that part because my leg was killing me after it.
So did you even have to spend a little bit extra time in your rehab, especially early on, focused on your leg?
Mm-hmm. So I went to Club 4, which is like a local gym, and I was doing very, very light hamstring curls, trying to get it back. The pain on my leg was actually way worse than my arm. I didn't really have any arm pain. It was just like, it was hard to walk. So I wasn't really expecting that. That kind of surprised me a little. But yeah, I
And
had to do hamstring curls and stuff like that.
did you know going into the surgery that it was coming out of your hamstring, or was that like a rude awakening when you woke up? Like, why does my leg hurt?
No, I knew it was coming from my hamstring. I didn't think it was gonna hurt because everyone talks about their arms hurting and stuff like that. So
He made it sound like it was no big deal. He's like, oh, yeah, we'll just take it from your hamstring.
yeah.
You won't even notice it.
Yeah, he told me it wasn't gonna hurt at all and I wasn't gonna notice it. And that was like the worst thing ever.
Couldn't move around at all.
Well, so I bring that up of not knowing. There is one guy I know that I've had a lot of conversations with. He's actually in the MLB now, but he went into surgery thinking that it was coming out of his arm,
Mhm.
and the palmaris longus tendon ended up not being thick enough or strong enough. It was deemed by the surgeon to be the replacement for the UCL. So then he ended up waking up finding out that it came out of his hamstring.
Yeah, I would not be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you need it to be done, but
Yeah.
imagine just waking up, looking down, and be like, no.
They had to cut him twice. So they had to check his palmaris longus and then
Yes.
realize it wasn't long enough and then
Yeah.
go to the hamstring. That guy got it in both
Yeah.
ends.
Yeah, but hey, he's in the show. At least he made it. All worth it, I guess.
Yeah, totally worth it.
Yeah. So let's get back to the timeline because I'm so bad with these rabbit holes and these tangents. I'll go off on every single one. And I know, Tommy, we've done this on phone calls before. Well, hour and a half later, we're just gonna realize we didn't even get
Oh,
to the point.
that's me and Daryl once a week at least.
Yes. So Andrew, you get the surgery, you talk about the hamstring bothering you a little bit. Now, when or how did rehab really kick off for you? Were you in the brace? Were you going to talk to people, see people right away? Or was it just like on your own, moving your fingers around? What was that first few weeks like?
So I kind of had a team around me. Y'all really helped a lot. I had my dad, a lot of people to talk to, my trainer, stuff like that. So I started off in a brace and kind of a splint, like a wrap sort of thing for the first 2 weeks. And I was just squeezing a ball because I had the splint on, so I couldn't fit the FlexPro on yet. So after the 2 weeks, I started doing FlexPro. I think it was like 10% rehab or something like that.
Yep.
Very light. So yeah, and I started PT 2 weeks after, and the main focus was to get my arm straight, to get my mobility back. So I think I got my mobility back in 21 days. So my PT was very happy with that. So basically, I hung my arm off the bed. I just let it hang, let gravity do the work. Yep, and it got straight pretty quick. So I was pretty happy with that. And then we went into some shoulder strengthening and stuff like that, and continued to do the rehab protocol and FlexPro. So like for forearm training, I kind of use the FlexPro as my forearm training, stuff like that, to get my elbow strong through the rehab protocol. And then at PT, we did a lot of shoulder work, kind of strengthening the muscles around it.
Mhm.
Some triceps, biceps, stuff like that. We did a lot of blood flow restriction,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then I think 12 weeks in, we introduced some football throws, very light, maybe like 10, 15 feet, just a couple throws. And we slowly built that up to where I was like long tossing with the football in the parking lot, like, maybe 4 or 5 weeks later. So continue to build that up. Got my shoulders really strong. We did a lot of landmine press. We, of course, introduced like plyometrics with the elbow, stuff like that. So we started doing some band, internal, external, stuff like that to introduce that kind of stress to the elbow. And we continue to do that. And then I think I started my throwing program 14, 16 weeks in, somewhere in there. And then 16 weeks with Driveline. So that was pretty
working with
good.
Dylan, right?
Yeah, working with Dylan Newcomer. So that's awesome. It really helped me through that.
Daryl facilitated that connection.
Dylan's the man. I'm glad you guys were able to get connected.
We didn't really have a choice because insurance-based PT works. Insurance doesn't care that he wasn't like back to where he was beforehand. They only cared about, okay, you can do what a normal person can do, not what an athlete can do. So they did everything they could do to extend him as long as they can, but eventually they cut us off. So in my conversation with Daryl, he was like, all right, it's time to get you with someone in the baseball realm. Yeah. Here's Dylan's number, call him, let's go. And we went from there.
Yeah. So I guess brief pause now. I'm going to shift this over to Tommy, and then Andrew, I'm going to drill you to see if you feel any differently. But from a dad's perspective, I have to know in this kind of first, I guess, to the 16-week point, so about 4-ish months, did you notice any shifts mentally or in the identity that you saw from your son? Obviously, he went through a traumatic experience. He still wants to be a big-time baseball player, but he's dealing with this massive setback. So beyond the physical, I want to know what you saw from either the mental or emotional side.
So, man, that part was actually like really easy. And that's one of the questions that everyone asks him. Everyone asks him, how are you doing mentally? How are you doing mentally? But I mean, he's broken his arm a couple times. He had some growth plate issues. He had a tricep tendonitis. And every time I'm going to come back stronger. His mental state was great. I'm going to come back strong. And every time he came back stronger. And this time, and especially with the way it is baseball now, it's almost a foregone conclusion that if you throw hard, that you're going to have an elbow injury at some point. Mm-hmm. The guy who trains his pitching coach and trainer, Kevin, he had TJ when he pitched, and he pitched up all the way up to AAA with the Angels organization. So he had some advice to give him, and everyone around him, like his high school coach, pitched in AAA he actually played for the Durham Bulls. And so he had everyone around him had great advice going towards all that. So his mental state really never wavered. I mean, once you're in it, you're in it. There is no shoulda, coulda, wouldas. There's no, man, if only. No, we're here now. Let's be in the present. What are we going to do moving forward to make ourselves better? And that's kind of how we addressed it from the very beginning. All right, well, here we go. So what do we have to do? We have to get your forearm stronger. We have to strength shield everything so we don't go through this again. And, we especially didn't want to fail rehab because, that's a common misconception. Everyone thinks, oh, you get TJ, you're going to come back throwing harder. No, that's not reality if you look at the statistics and if you look at all the case studies and stuff. So there's a lot of people who don't come back. They definitely don't come back as good as they were or better. And I think a lot of that has to do with your rehab plan and where your mindset's at and all that stuff. So we had really no choice but to all right, here it is. We have to do this. We have to do that. We have to do this. This is your life from this moment until you're back on the bump. And that's kind of how we approached it. So mentally, he's stayed pretty rock steady the whole time.
So Andrew, do you feel like it took a bit to get back to yourself, or do you just kind of agree with that straight up? Obviously, you went through it. Your dad just witnessed.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I think like a lot of like my coaches asked like, hey, are you doing okay? Because they're saying a lot of like things that happen with injuries is depression. It comes with depression. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, honestly, I'm doing great. I kind of just took it as another bump in the road because I've dealt with past injuries. So I wouldn't say I'm used to it, but I just know how to deal with it. So I just kind of took this bump in the road. I kind of just knew I'll get back. I'll stay on my routine, and like this isn't gonna change my future. I'm just gonna keep pushing. So I don't think it really got to me mentally. I will say it was hard in playoffs for school ball when we had some close games, and we really just needed someone to be there and go in and just be dominant. And I was really wishing I could pitch then. So that was probably the hardest times was in playoffs, watching other people pitch in tight situations that I just love to pitch in. But other than that, I'll say it wasn't bad mentally. I think I had a good mindset about it from the jump, which also helped out a group of people around me, giving me good advice, helping me through it, and stuff like that. It just helped me through this journey. So yeah, I'd say I had a pretty good mentality about it from the start. So yeah.
So really the hardest part was just watching your team try to compete for a state championship because your team
Yeah.
still made it really far, right?
Yeah, we made it to state and then we lost in state. So
That's what I thought. Dang. So truly the hardest part was just missing out on competition. It wasn't even so much what you were dealing with. It was just seeing the guys you wanted to be with, seeing your brother, seeing, I guess, Tommy, what you talked about earlier, like your dream, seeing both boys playing on the same field.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
That's like a dad's dream, you got both your boys playing in the state championship, or in the playoffs. They're just on the same team because
Right.
there's such an age difference that really hasn't been much of an option.
Yeah. Well,
We'll see.
hey, fingers crossed, maybe that'll work out in college ball.
yeah, hopefully that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, or knock on wood. Thankfully, I'm at a wood desk. Yes, of course, the bank on college, but fingers crossed for the draft.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
just control what you can control. Sorry for me getting ahead of you. You stay in this good place mentally. I'll be the one that freaks out for you.
That's my job. I do
Yeah,
all the
exactly.
freaking out.
Yeah, that's the beauty of having all these people around you, Andrew. You get to be even keeled and just let everybody else freak out and worry about everything.
yeah,
I'm sure that's what it felt like at times with so many people around you, whether it was physical therapists, whether it's your teammates, your coaches. You got so many different people in so many different places that I bet it often felt like you were probably wondering why, like, guys, this isn't a big deal. Like, we got this.
yeah,
Keeping them all on the same page was sometimes a challenge.
Yeah.
Getting everyone together on the same page, like the physical therapist. He wanted to do his own forearm exercises, and we're like, no, we got something for that. So there was some management and all of that, and the coach had a plan, and his other coach had a plan, and
yeah,
just getting everyone on the same page took a little bit of coordination, but it all had to work for his benefit.
Of course, it's good to recognize that the reason everybody had these plans is because every person is meaning so well. They're all trying to do their best by you. And like that's a great problem to have that everybody was working so hard in your corner that the worst thing that could happen were people maybe, I don't even want to call it overstepping, but maybe going a little further than they need to or working without discussion just because they cared and they want to see you be your best. So even the fact that we can take that silver lining from something that may have been difficult, I think is awesome. It speaks to the people you surround yourself with.
Oh yeah, and you're right. And I never once took it as anyone ever overstepping. That wasn't the thing. And believe me, I got some spirited phone calls too a couple times, and I was like, you know what? I agree. I'm with you. We got to go. I got a call from Daryl. Andrew will not throw a baseball. I'll call Dylan. We're not doing this. He's gonna hit this mile marker. He's gonna hit that mile marker. He's gonna hit this mile marker. He said, "I'll be damned if he fails." And I was like, absolutely, I'm with you 100%. And that puts the onus back on him. Andrew has to do these things. He's the one who has to do the work. We can put the best plan in front of him. We can all have the greatest intentions, but unless he's willing to put the work in, unless he's willing to do the job, then it's all for nothing. And that's the part I understood from Daryl. We executed the plan and we didn't waver. And if we wouldn't have met those milestones, we wouldn't have thrown. We weren't going to start our throwing routine until we were at 70%. That was very, very adamant from you and Daryl. And even Dylan, when we started talking to him, he was like, all right, I want to see all your strength matrices first. I want to make sure you're strong enough to throw a baseball before we start throwing a baseball. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people miss out on. And I think that we're blessed to have you guys in our corner and all that stuff because some folks just, not all surgeons and not all are all created equal. And you're not going to get the best plan. They're just going to go on a timeline. Okay, it's been 4 months, start throwing a baseball. But what have you done in the meantime? Your basic insurance-based physical therapy? We got lucky. Even though it was insurance-based, the guy still knew what he had to do. Some guys don't get that. They're just, all right, 4 months is up, start throwing a baseball. Well, you're going to have a high likelihood of a setback or re-injury because you didn't create the strength you needed to move forward to throw. So we didn't have that. We went ahead and we shrink shielded everything we could possibly shrink shield, and he's stronger now than he's ever been. And I think that's the thing we were missing before. He was strong, yes, but you know as well as I do, the body will find a weakness.
Yep.
You have one weak link, your body will find it.
Yep.
That's the thing now. Shrink shield everything you can. All right, forearm strong. Internal external rotation strong, legs strong, trunk strong. Now you're like, all right, now let's get all the mechanics together and see what we can do.
For sure. Yeah. So I guess that's the perfect segue. Speaking of mechanics, Andrew, talk us through that throwing program. I know you said kind of when it started, but since you focus so much on strength and movement early on, was the initial part of the throwing program even difficult?
No, I felt it was pretty light. I expected it to be like more intense in the beginning. Start off, not many throws. It's very light. If you're familiar with the Driveline PULSE Sensor, like the workload. I think my workload was at like a 4 or like a 3 to start. And that's like not, if you know anything about that, it's not many throws at all. So I thought it was gonna be a lot heavier. So it was really light at first because I was throwing a lot of the football at PT before that. But it slowly worked its way up. We started working back distance and volume and intensity. And I really liked how it was velocity based. So we tracked everything and slowly ramped up the velocity as the program went on. I like how we kind of trained velocity before volume. And now we're starting to do more volume work now that I'm at a high velocity. So I just ramped my velocity up. Sometimes it went up by like 3. So I'd start at like 45 miles per hour. There's like 15 throws at 45. Yeah, I was just flicking it. And then I slowly ramped up. I think I got on the mound a month after, maybe a month and a half after I started the program, maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think starting at 75 off the mound. And then we slowly moved up, went up to 77, then 80, then 83. And I think we made a jump to like 86. And I was always kind of above like my goal. Like if my goal was 86, I was most likely hitting 87. I don't know if it was just me being competitive with it, trying to get over my goals, but I was always kind of above my goal. And now we ramped up and the goal is like 92. And I've been up to 92 so far.
I like the way that you map that out. And you said you feel like you responded well to kind of focusing on the intent first or the velocity first before adding the volume. And do you think that beyond just the physical adaptation, did you like that from your mental approach? Like you were more able to chase a number before just like throwing for the sake of throwing. I'm sure it kind of felt like there was some competition in it as opposed to like, all right, let's go out, let's bring the bucket and let's just throw until we're tired.
Yeah, I think it kind of made it like brought out the fun in it. I have goals, kind of be competitive. I'm not just out there, all right, after 40 throws, just lobbing it. It's no, I got to hit this number today. So I got to prepare, got to get ready. I got to hit this number. So it's just fun. Kind of brings the fun back into baseball. I was doing a lot of rehabbing, not really playing baseball. So it's just something to have fun with, kind of compete and just try to get my goals each week as they kept getting higher and higher. So yeah, I like that. It is pretty fun.
For sure. And with 92 now as the new goal or the new benchmark, in your throwing program, for example, like how many times are you supposed to hit 92?
So he kind of gives me a range. Like last week, I think it was like 15 throws, and I want you to he was like 88 to 94. Try to go as hard as you can. I started a new workout program last week, so I was really sore. So I didn't have the best outing, but I think I was like 89, 90 that day. Yeah, so he kind of just gives me a range. It's not like a set number, hit 92 4 times. No, it's here's the range. Try to stay on the top end of the range if you can. So it's kind of what I've been doing.
A blow it by you fastball is how he wears it.
Yeah.
How many times have you grabbed that 92 so far?
I think I've grabbed it maybe like 5 times.
All on the same day, or have you done it on separate days?
I think maybe 2 days. It was mostly on one day. So I've been having trouble with my form work. Like my sequencing isn't lined up right now. So I've
Okay.
been doing a lot of drills, stuff like that to get my sequencing right with my arm and my hips because my arm is late right now and it's low. So I'm trying to fix that, and then I should have another velo jump once I get that lined up.
Heck yeah. So that might be a good thing to get into here. So in your return, did you struggle or have you struggled to regain movement that feels good? Like, do you feel like you're throwing differently than you threw before?
So before I was struggling with the same problem where my elbow was getting low on landing. But when my foot would land and my elbow would be low and late, I think I picked right back up. I was trying not to, but when I started throwing again, I kind of went straight back to that, I guess from muscle memory. So we're trying to fix that right now actually because my arm's low and it's late and it's causing sequencing issues. So yeah, that's been the main focus is get the arm up on landing.
Because it's not a strength issue at this point.
Right.
I mean, you've seen his FlexPro numbers. He's 100, 100, 100. Everything else is there. So he's strong enough to throw 100. We just have to, it's mechanical at this point. It's all sequencing. And the part that Dylan brought up about that was he's so hypermobile. Like he sent me a freeze frame of it. His hips are completely facing home, and you can see his chest from second base. And he's like, it's amazing mobility, but probably not the best position to be in. So we're working on some things to get all that synced up, and then once that happens, he should be able to fire it a little bit harder.
So what are some of those drills or movements, I guess, that you're working on? Now it's your turn to be coach. Educate everyone for a little bit if you don't mind.
I've been in the mirror just going through my throwing motion with a heavy ball to create some feel. So just a big plyo ball, nothing too big, but just in the mirror, going through my throwing motion and videoing it, stuff like that, just making sure it's up. And then also recently I've been on the mound. I would have like my arms out here, my legs up and starting to throw. And then I'd pull my arm back to start flipping up as my back hip was starting to turn and rotate in to kind of sync that and get the timing right. And then I video all of that and I check it and I send it to my pitching coach. He checks all of it and gives me little cues and stuff to fix and stuff like that.
Like the dead man drill or like zombie, I've heard people call it that, like Frankenstein or something, like arms straight out in front of you.
Yeah, arms are up and my legs up and I just flow down the mound and then kind of time my arm flipping up and my leg twisting and coiling at the same time. So
Are you at the point now that when you do it right, you know it, or do you have to see it?
no, I can kind of feel it. I can tell just by the way it feels. Like it just feels so much smoother and more natural. Hopefully I can get to doing that every time and be more consistent with it, but it's still a work in progress. So.
Have you noticed any change in slot? Like, are you higher, lower, or roughly the same?
I think it's around the same. I don't think my slot has changed any.
Yeah, I know some people deal with that when they're coming back from injury. They just can't feel comfortable from the spot they were in before, or maybe it was a mechanical change they made and they recognize like, oh no, that's not sustainable for me to be way up high or way down low. I need to find something new. So I just figured I'd ask. But kind of along those lines as well. So in this discovery process, you now know when it feels right. I'm curious if the ball feels any different coming out of your hand. Like, are you noticing different spin? Do you have better efficiency, better carry? Are you around it more maybe than you used to? Because I know some people also then change the way they pronate or supinate going into release. Have you dealt with any of that?
So I haven't thrown on TrackMan, so I can't really see any of my efficiency and stuff like that. But I do know when I was just training with my pitching coach like a day or two ago. He said he could tell when I was doing it right because the ball was just flying out of my fingers. It was a lot more firm. It was same effort, like I was trying to throw around the same effort, but you could just tell I was doing it right just from the ball being more firm and gaining more velo from doing it right. But I don't think the ball, like, it's not cutting or anything like that. Like, nothing like that has changed. So it's still just a high ride fastball.
So Tommy, early in this process, how was it to play catch with Andrew again? Because I know it can't be fun catching 85 plus, 90 plus, but it had to feel good that you could at least hang with him for the like first few weeks of his throwing program.
Well, oh, you remember the video I sent you from when he
Yes.
first started throwing it? Like that was week one, and he almost killed. I was just videoing. He's playing catch with his brother, and he nailed me in the shin. I didn't even realize I sent you that video. So you're like, yeah, probably not. And I went back and replayed it, and I was like, oh, that probably wasn't the video I meant to send him. But he almost killed me with one of the plyo balls because Dylan's got him throwing the 7-ounce plyo ball and the 14-ounce plyo ball as part of the warm up. Well, I don't have any external rotation anymore, at my age. And he threw that 14-ounce ball up, and I caught it up, and it almost took me completely out. And he was like, I could throw against the wall if you want. And I was like, no, I'm gonna suck it up for now. But after that, I was like, go ahead and throw against the wall. So that's when you're throwing the heavy balls. Because I'm just not built for it anymore.
That just yanked the shoulder right out of socket, huh?
Yeah, I think we might have just tore my rotator cuff, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, hey, maybe we'll just pass the throwing program on to you. Everything that Andrew just went through, we'll just push it on to you once he's back and healthy.
My throwing days are in the rear view. I've been in the rear view. Now I got a crow hop to get it across the diamond. We can play catch up close, but after that, like if you're long tossing, you got to take the bucket out there with you, and I'm essentially just catching.
Yeah, just bring the fungo, just hit it back out there.
I tried that once. If I was that good at fungo, I could probably do that. Spraying balls all over the field.
That causes a bigger fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More work.
Well, I don't know if the throwing days are behind you. You literally have the full year-long plan in front of you. It's just a matter of starting, Tommy.
Oof. That'd be a lot of work to get my shoulder working correctly. Now I got 0 layback, so
Well, I don't know if you have 0 layback. I mean, you're on the Layback Podcast, so that's at least got to count for something.
Yeah, if you knew that ahead of time, I probably would have been disqualified from this conversation.
We should have had you send a picture before we put you on here.
Yeah, that's right. You got to have at least, I don't know, a couple degrees of layback, and I
Andrew, before I get back to a serious question, I've got to ask something a little bit lighter. It's been with me ever since you talked about the football throwing. Did your football coach at school come up to you and be like, hey, looks like you might be ready to go for September. We could use a guy.
No, I think they're used to me saying no. They were begging me for 2 years straight. Hey, we got a jersey for you, we got a helmet for you right here. And I was like, no, I can't do it. I got to focus on baseball. So I think they just kind of accepted the fact that I wasn't coming back to football. And then it didn't help that I was dunking in the basketball gym, and the basketball coach happened to see it. So he's like, oh, do that again. And now he's trying to get me to play basketball. So I'm like, no, I can't do that either. I got to stick to baseball.
We talked about that whole off the ground thing. You're not allowed to do that.
Doesn't end well for me.
Yeah, especially with people around you. The one time, like, yeah, you can jump higher now. You can do all that stuff. You're going to try to do a 360 or like between the legs. You're going to get rim stuffed. And then that's where the real issue arises.
Can you imagine? And the coaches know it too. They're like, I mean, because he can throw a football before injury. I don't know where you're at right now, but he can throw a football 70 yards and jump out the roof. He's got great hands. So like, you don't even have to throw a football. Come play receiver. At this point, I think they'd be like, if you got hurt on the football field, we'd all be idiots. So it's probably best not to.
It's not a great look when the most athletic kid in the school is only a pitcher.
Yeah.
I know you were playing other positions before, but you even don't like doing that very much.
Nah, I like to stay on the slope. So
No, he was a shortstop back in the day, and then everyone fell in love with his arm. And he hits well. He rakes. So he hit a bunch of home runs before he went out. So his coach wants him to play first base and hit, and he's like, "How about DH and pitch?"
Yeah.
I told him PODH. Hopefully that's the move, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, let me know how that all plays out. It's going to be hard to keep you off the field.
Wingspan.
Yeah.
I put him at first base too.
I don't know if your school's big enough, Andrew. You might have to.
Yeah, I told him I would do whatever's best for the team, but if it was up to me, I would be DHing. So
I have a feeling he's going to be over there at first base.
Yeah, that's the right answer. So back to the serious stuff. Don't have too much more serious stuff, but we'll knock out a couple more. So were there any setbacks in the process?
No, I don't. I was like expecting some setbacks, but I didn't really have any. I know some people talk about like their arm starts to hurt when they start ramping up, but like my arm's been pain free throughout this whole process. So that kind of surprised me. I was expecting something to come up, but even like besides my arm, like my body hasn't really been hurt. I've had a little bit of groin, like my groin's been a little tight, but I just start stretching it more, and I was good to go. So it wasn't really a setback. So I haven't like had any like big setbacks. So I'm pretty happy with that. At least not yet.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Assuming your desk is wood, I got wood right here. Just well, Andrew, I apologize for this one, but I want to give you a little warning for pre-embarrassment because I'm going to ask your dad to say something nice about you here, or hopefully it's prepping for something nice. I'm holding out hope it is at least. So, Tommy, have you noticed any difference in like who Andrew is as a man, as a person after going through this, or just, I guess, all the injuries in general, like watching him endure and continue to chase down these dreams?
I don't know, without fear of sounding super like braggadocious. And you know how it is. Like anytime someone talks to the dad of a kid, they're like, you expect to hear, oh, he was born a star. He throws 102 in his sleep. So he's kind of always been, we always knew he was different and kind of built for it. Like if there's a situation that's too big for him, we haven't found it yet. And going through all this, but you put together a good plan and then you just execute it. So I don't know that he's had time mentally to even worry a little bit. He just goes through it, and even then, we're diligent about the long holds. We're diligent about the bands. We're diligent about even when he gets home from workouts. For like the first words out of my mouth are like, "Hey, you need to get a post-workout drink in you. You need to get some food in you." Everything is so regimen that that's kind of the way we've been. And I don't know if that's from a military background or that's just from everyone giving me advice and going, okay, we need to do X, Y, Z, therefore we're going to do X, Y, Z. But I think he's definitely taken a little bit more ownership. Like I don't have to stand over him. Like before it was, hey, you done your FlexPro? Hey, have you eaten today? Or hey, where are you, how many grams of protein did you have today? If you're not trying to get better, then what are you doing? Now you're just being a slappy. So we can't have it. So he's taken more of it, and now and I'm like, hey, have you? Yes. Hey, have you? Yes. Hey, have you? Okay, all right. And if he was faltering on any of that, I know for a fact that Daryl would, hey, dude, his numbers are dipping. Hey, well, what's going on here? And I appreciate that because it takes some of the load off me. It takes some of the load off having to monitor that 24/7. And now that he's taken ownership of it himself, so I definitely see that growth and especially in the recruiting process. So like we skipped a year. I don't even know if we've covered that yet, but when he went from a 2027 to a 2026, we took advantage of the down year with the UCL injury to knock out some extra classes during the fall or during the spring and then during the summer and then move him up to 2026. So we skipped his whole sophomore year. So he went from not being eligible to talk to these colleges to now eligible to talk to these colleges and oh, and by the way, you need to come do some visits and we need to talk about where you want to go and what you want to do. And that's been a little bit different. Really thought we had more time and then we didn't. So we sprinkled that on top of it too, but he's made me very proud with the way he's handled things.
So, Andrew, yeah, I saw the slight smile. Hopefully, it wasn't too much embarrassment in that answer. Do you feel any different? Do you feel like this process has forced you to grow up a little bit, or is it more just you had to take on more?
I think it's helped me like you said, ownership, just taking care of my routine, stay on in the routine without someone having to tell me to do it. Just kind of taking it on myself and getting it done before someone has to say something to do it. So I think that's kind of where I've probably grown the most is just getting my stuff done without someone having to be on me and telling me to do it and reminding me. I kind of just get it done on my own. But besides that, I think I'm pretty much the same.
I mean, he's still 16. You can only expect so much from 16.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, what are the goals for this coming season, my man? You should be back on the field. So now let's talk about some of the fun stuff. What are the plans ahead?
So I'm hoping to get up to maybe touch a 95, 96, somewhere in there, throw some gas. And I want my strike percentage to be really high. So the big goal for this whole rehab thing has been throw strikes. which I've actually done really well with so far in my bullpens. Because in the past, I usually have good command, but sometimes, it gets a little loose, start chunking them up a little bit. Recently, I've had really good command, so that's kind of been the goal is just throw strikes, cut down on the walks and be able to, throw my curveball for a strike, my changeup for a strike, my fastball for a strike. Just try to put it all in the zone when I can and when I want to. So that's kind of the goal is just command and get the velo up.
Well, this coming season, you don't have your brother to get on base and score some runs for you, but how's the team looking? Should the team be able to make a run again?
Oh yeah. So the team's basically the same, just minus a couple seniors and my brother. My brother's a big part, but I think I'll fill him in pretty well. Hopefully he doesn't hear that. But but I think we'll be good. We should make a run for state and hopefully we'll get the blue map. But yeah, our team's looking good. It's most of the same players from last year. So just more developed, more mature. So there's been some arguments with the past seniors of if our team's going to be better or not. So I think we are. None of the past seniors think we are. So we'll
Time
see.
will only tell. Time will only tell. So my last real question for you, I guess my last major question on this topic at least, is what's the recruiting timeline look for you now that you're reclassed? I know you mentioned that right at the head of the podcast. Your dad just mentioned it there. So what's it look like now that I guess you just lost a year of like camps and being seen. You didn't really lose a year of communication. Now you just got thrown into
Yeah, so it was kind of quick, kind of stressful a little bit. It all just
it.
kind of came on me quick, but I've been taking it slow. I told myself I want to get back to myself before I commit anywhere. I've been communicating with some colleges. I visited a couple colleges, but I've told them I want to wait probably till the spring. Just try to get back to myself, get back to full 100% me before I commit myself to someone for something that I'm not 100% doing yet.
They're all like wanting an answer, like you go to the school and like, all right, first question. All right, where are you at on commitment? We're ready to offer, but where are you at on commitment? And that's where it starts. And he's been pretty consistent with his message. I want to get back on the bump. I haven't thrown a competitive pitch in over a year. Let me get back into game mode. I want to make sure that I'm me, that I'm where I'm at before we move forward with a commitment to a college. Because I'll support him either way. If he wanted to commit tomorrow, I'd be like, fine. Or if you want to wait and go visit a couple more places and really get a good feel for what's out there, then we can do that. But that's all on him. That's all. Ultimately, that's got to be his decision. And he's got to go with his gut on all that. We're going to wait until sometime in the spring or, maybe even a little bit after.
For sure. I respect that. I think you're handling that well as a family. And then Andrew, you personally, I think that's awesome. Control what you can control, worry about your own business. And then once you're feeling good, make a move then. There's no reason to bring the future to the present if you don't have to.
Right.
Well said. That was perfect. That perfect nugget right there.
Well, thanks. It just, hey, I got it from your son. He said it. I just summarized it.
No, you're underselling that because I know something about the Moros, and you guys are very, very talented at turning a phrase. Like Daryl was going with me, and I actually had to stop in the middle of the conversation and be like, "Did you throw that nugget out there? Because that needs to go on a billboard. Did you do that on purpose? Or you just come off the cuff with that?" He just threw out strength before throwing. We were in the middle of the conversation. He was like, strength before throwing. And I was like, why isn't that everywhere?
Yeah, that
Why
makes sense. Just
every high school? It's so common sense once you go down this path. But you know how many people have absolutely no idea what that means or how to implement that. And the medical industry would dry up if people took that approach. Now it's total sidebar and total rabbit, but you guys are very, very talented in turning phrase.
I got it from somewhere. I had to. It must be hereditary or something, just like the baldness.
Well,
So that kind of concludes my more serious questioning. Andrew, this honestly might be the toughest question I ask you all podcast, but if baseball didn't exist, it was nowhere in the world, what do you think you would want to do with your life?
Honestly, I have no clue. Yeah, that's a tough question. But I guess it'd be different because I wouldn't be growing up playing baseball. So I don't know, my whole life would be different. But Yeah, I don't even know what to say to that.
So what's your favorite subject in school?
Probably math. Probably comes the easiest to me.
All
Yeah,
right,
maybe
so
something in math. I don't know.
maybe something engineering, maybe turn that into some architecture. I don't know. Maybe I'll answer it for you.
No way. This dude will get out of school as quickly as he possibly can.
Yep, nothing with too much college. So yeah,
Well, you got a few years of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know, maybe when you were a kid, what other sports were you playing? What piqued your interest back before you went diamond only?
I played some football. I think I played a season of basketball, and I didn't like it. I like blacktop basketball, not when it's like organized and they can say I'm traveling. But I played football until I think when COVID hit. That's when I kind of shut down on football. I was just like, I'm just gonna leave it in the past and just decided to focus on baseball. Yeah, it was really just football, baseball, and a little bit of basketball, but I didn't really like it. Oh yeah, I did do some MMA when I was little.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
That's actually what got us started in sports.
No way.
The gym I was working at, a guy had a dojo in there and he was doing a bunch of different mixed martial arts and he had a kids class and I put both the boys in there and that started them on working out and fitness, really physical fitness.
mhm.
And baseball took over from there. We actually quit doing that to play baseball.
Oh my gosh. This is heck, burying the lead. This might be something else we need to get into. We're about to get super off topic with all the questions on this, but I don't know. Maybe you should have stayed in it so you could have gotten some cauliflower ear. That would be real intimidating on the mound.
Yeah, that would be intimidating. I don't know. That wouldn't look the best.
I don't know. If you had like a permanent scar like on your lip and some cauliflower ear, I think that would make 95 look like 105.
Probably.
It already does.
I do really appreciate the time today. That really does end the line of questioning for me. The defense rests. Hopefully you guys feel okay about this. I want to say thanks again for coming on, sharing the story. Any parting words, guys?
It's been a lot of fun. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for having us.
Of course. Well, can't wait to follow the season, see how that goes. We still have our winter arc to get through. I know
Yeah.
95 is going to fall. 92's got to fall first, I suppose, but 95 will fall. And then state championship, here we come.
Yep, that's the plan.
Well, thanks again, guys. And to all the listeners out there, thanks for laying back with us.